Okay. So this is the third in our series on Megillat Esther. Next week, I'm not teaching. I don't know if there is another. There is another speaker. I just want to say that the reason why I'm not going to be here next week is because I am going to be accompanying one of my clients, hopefully, who's in Aguna for quite a long time. Hopefully, Bezrat Hashem to get her get. And this year should be a zchut for her, for Vered Bella Batsima, and for all of those who are trapped and all the Chatufim. It should be a zchut refuah shalema, all of the Chayalim who were injured, and a shmira for all of the Chayalim and for all of Am Yisrael. So I know that I told Judy that everyone should bring a Megillah, and we didn't use them, and I'm like, oh, now that we're really going to use them, no one's going to bring the Megillah. Okay, that's what happened. That's my fault. Okay, so I want to go through certain parts of the Megillah, and I want to, okay, great. I want to ask a few questions that really scream, like, what is this, right? Now, we know the Megillah is not a history book, right? Nothing in Torah is a history book. History is his story. It's something which belongs to one person. Everything which is written in Tanakh, in Megillat Esther, specifically, is not a one person's story. It's a national story. It's the story of survival. It's the story of the Jewish nation. I saw this clip in the beginning of the war, which I really love, which is, what does it mean to be Jewish? Is it an ethnic group? Is it a nation? Is it a religion, a race? Like, what does it mean to be Jewish, right? And he went through all the different categories that we mentioned above, and maybe a few others that I don't remember. And in the end, he says, you know what we're a family. A very dysfunctional family, right?
That dysfunctional?
No.
We're normally dysfunctional.
Normally dysfunctional. That could be. Maybe it's normal to be.
I think it's very funny.
Brothers always fight, right? The history of the world is that brothers fight, right? If we go back to Cain and Hevel, right? The first brothers in history, and it didn't end too well, right? So don't worry, your kids haven't crossed that line yet. Baruch Hashem. So that's true that, that's kind of normal, but that doesn't mean that it really is a functional, what's common, maybe the word is common. It might be very common in families that families fight, brothers fight, sisters never fight, right? Always under the table. So, but the bottom line is that we are family. So Megillat Esther, and that's what I'd like to explore today. Where is this Megillat Esther is actually, and we mentioned this briefly, we talked about Esther as being a tikkun for the sin of Adam and Chava, which was the first separation, so to speak, right? Okay, the sin brought separation into the world, separation from their closeness, separation from being able to be themselves unclothed in front of another without any thoughts of sexuality coming in, but it was just me being me, and you being you, and that was okay, and being okay with that. Into now there's going to be a lot of diviseness, there's going to be a pirud, a very, very big schism in relationships. So, and Megillat Esther is the healing of that. So let's look into it and see what that means. So Megillat Esther is going to be the tikkun, the rectification for that, and bringing it back. And that's what Purim is. Purim is the rectification for separation, for disconnect. That is Purim. So there's a very interesting quote that if somebody asks God for courage, they're going to get opportunities to be courageous, right? If we ask Hashem for courage, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden we're going to, like Popeye, ate the spinach and then boom, he has the muscles, right? Hashem is going to give us opportunities to be courageous, right? When we can make that choice to be courageous. And that goes with everything that we ask Hashem for, right? We ask Hashem to make, to help us in a certain situation, to give us peace, right? So does that mean that Hashem is going to all of a sudden, like everything is going to be al-mei menuchot? No, Hashem will give us opportunities to make choices which we can bring peace, more peace within our lives. So let's look at three characters in the Megillah Maybe next time we meet, we'll look at the fourth. Esther, Haman, and Achashverosh. Let's try to figure out what's going on here. Achashverosh, the Megillah starts off. Achashverosh. He's the king, right? He's not just, he's Achashverosh, he's the big king. Mehodu be'at Kush, from India until Ethiopia, 127 kingdoms. That's like crazy, right? That's a crazy amount. That's bigger than the English Commonwealth. I mean, that's huge, okay? Hodu is India. That's all basically kimat, all of what was known to man at that time, okay? And he had all of these islands too, right? That we see at the end, that he was the ruler over all these islands in between. So he has this magnificent, huge kingdom, okay? And what does he do? And when we read the Megillah, when we're in Gan and when we're growing up, and we kind of think of Achashverosh as this foolish, naive, stupid, ADHD, he is impulsive kind of person, okay? The question is, was there a method to his madness, right? What was he doing? So he makes this huge party, and the Megillah describes the party, which is also questionable. Like, is this an archive here? This is not an archive. This is Tanakh. This is Kodesh. Why does the Megillah go into such detail about his grandiose, huge rulership, lands, everything? Like, it just seems unnecessary. He was the king. He had 127 kingdoms. He was really, powerful, etc. And it describes in great detail. Now, part of the reason why it describes in great detail is because many of the objects which are used here, right? And again, just if you look in Pasuk Hey, the end of Pasuk Hey, where does this all happen? Ginat Bitan HaMelech. It's happening in the garden, right? Because we said everything is going back to the Garden of Eden. This is a replay of Adam and Chava. It's happening in the garden, and it describes a lot of these things. And if you look in Pasuk Zayin, it says Vashkot b'kelei zahav, and he gave people to drink in golden cups, v'kelim mikelim shonim. And I'm sure you've paid attention to this over the years, that when they read the Megillah, they switch from the tune of Esther, mikelim shonim is read to the tune of Eicha. Okay. I couldn't do the kelim shonim. No, not so good. Okay, so what? Yeah, it's the Eicha tune. Okay, the Eicha is the morning of the temple. What were these unusual vessels, unique vessels? Well, these were vessels from the temple. Okay, and that was part of the mockery of what Achashverosh was doing. He was wearing the clothes of the Kohen Gadol. He's using the vessels from the Beis Hamikdash. He's making a mockery of everything the temple was and everything, Jewish symbols. Pretty close to like burning the flag.
Wait,
okay.
Actually, someone just told me recently, I don't know if it's true. I mean, whatever, must remember that. But the party was actually to celebrate the destruction of the temple. Like
yeah, we said that. Yeah. Both. Yeah, but that's it. It was a celebration that the 70 years was up.
Right.
And
so was this not what this purpose of this whole thing to celebrate?
Exactly. But why does it need to show off so much, and why does the Torah need to record this? Okay. And then we get to the most ununderstandable part of this party, right? Section 1 of the Megillah, and that is he calls Vashti. Now, does that make any sense? Makes no sense, right? He calls Vashti to appear naked in front of all of the chief officers of his court. Why would he do that? What does he have to gain from that? Isn't he shaming himself? What's his point, right? What does he have to gain here? Okay.
Her father, the Melech.
Yes, Belshazzar.
And he's a nothing, and he's a
stable boy,
and he shames her that somehow elevates him.
How would that help him, though?
That wouldn't be the first husband in the world.
Right, no, definitely would.
Yeah.
Right, but usually a queen, somebody in we're not so used to monarchy, but usually the queen is, nobody looks at the queen, nobody touches the queen, nobody comes near the queen, like she's mine and not yours. Now maybe that was part of his intention, right? But I want to suggest something else. I want to suggest that Achashverosh has a big problem here, okay? He is as Judy pointed out, he's a stable boy. He's not from monarchy. He doesn't have experience in running one country, one city, let alone 127 states, okay, which he now has to keep in order. How is he going to do that? How is he going to let people know, I am the boss, right? It's me. I am the one who's in charge. It's not, and I didn't get this from my father-in-law. It's me. I am me. And he has to unite these 127 states, which it would be very easy for two states to say, you know what? We have a common enemy. This guy Achashverosh came and he conquered us and he's taxing us, right? What was the purpose of conquering so much? Was to tax and bring home, to the mother country, to Persia, all of the riches and spoils and mashavim, resources from other countries, right? So he has to keep them happy. He has to keep them subordinate, right? He has to, right? It's like teaching. You have to keep them happy and you have to keep them, not teaching women, teaching girls, which is why I retired from early retirement from teaching, okay? Because you can't keep them happy and you definitely can't keep them subordinate. Those old days have passed, right? Not happening anymore. Okay, and you definitely can't keep them happy and subordinate and yourself happy at the same time. Okay, so, by the way, my daughter's school is looking for teachers, and so are many other schools who can't seem to keep their teachers anymore. In any event, that wasn't a joke, that's true. So we have here this king who has a real problem. He needs to control, he needs to subordinate, but he has to keep people happy to prevent them from rebelling against him or breaking off and starting a union, forget about a civil war. My enemy's enemy is my best friend. So he has 127 that he's got to keep in line. How is he going to do this? There's no fax, there's no email, there's no, he can't have an Instagram page that he's, posting his stuff. What is he going to do? So he's going to invite everybody to Shushan and he's going to show how grandiose he is, how powerful he is. And he is going to unite all of them by respecting all of their cultures. Meaning, I am not going to make you Persian. You're going to keep your cultures. Remember, at the party, nobody was forced to drink or eat anything they didn't want. There was food not only for the Jews, but there was cultural food for every single cultural group that was there, right? Sounds good, okay? There was, everything was made to make you feel at home and yet be kind of scared and awed by how powerful this man is. So what does he need, though? This is him, he's the power. What does he, in essence, want to do, though? He wants to rule over other people. He doesn't just want to make them happy. He wants to subordinate them. Well, what's the greatest way in subordinating somebody? Shaming them, right? Shame is a very powerful tool. How do most abusers abuse their abusees? With shame, okay? It's the easiest thing to do, right? It only costs a couple seconds. It's words. It's very easy. It's very accessible. And it creates power, right? We're going back to, subordination and keeping them happy, right? Well, unfortunately, how do many classrooms work? They operate by shame, okay? Many institutions operate by shame. Many societies operate by shame, okay? That's just the way things work because it's a very, very powerful tool. You think about 50, 60 years ago, the dunce cap, right? Sitting in the corner. That is called control by shame, okay? And to a certain extent, it was very successful, right? It might not have breeded healthy adults, but it certainly maintained control in the classroom, okay? In the olden days, when they used to post the marks up on the wall, right? They had the student's name and the mark. So you saw exactly where you ranked. It wasn't anonymous. It wasn't by number. That's just what it was. It kept people in line. Whether it produced healthy adults, I can't tell you. Well, I probably could, but I think everyone could figure it out for themselves. But it produced the desired result, which was control. Okay, so what is he going to do? Achashverosh is going to show how he can subordinate anyone. Okay, and he is completely in control, and he is somewhat turning Vashti into a statue. Okay, she is now going to be in his mind. I'm going to turn her into a statue. I'm going to completely objectify her because to me, the great and awesome Achashverosh, everything is going to be an object. Every person is going to be an object. They're just going to be another pawn in my great kingdom. So he's on the one hand feeding everybody, giving everybody a good 180-day party, right? Giving everybody a good time, music, food, the food that they want. But on the other hand, he's sending a very, very clear message. You better watch it, okay? You better watch it. So he's actually, but the main goal here is to unite all of the nations, and instead of them being 127 separate nations, he wants them to be all under his umbrella. So you could do it through the carrot, through the stick. So he has stick time and he has carrot time, right? Stick time is with Vashti, carrot time is with all the partying going on here. Okay, so that's Achashverosh's goal, is to unite all the people under his authoritarian rulership. Yeah. Definitely, because what makes somebody feel good? Everybody wants a little bit of control, right? So here, you'll be control over your wives, and I'll control you, right? And that's, by the way, that's the, maybe I'm taking this a little far, but that's the cycle of abuse, right? How does abuse work? Abusers recruit other abusers. Like think of the bully, right? The bully doesn't go at it alone, right? They're all subordinate. His little gang is subordinate to him. And then they all hurt other people. They're like mini hymns. So here, you could be a mini Achashverosh in your own home. I hear that. That's a very good insight. Okay. And then if we look at Haman, okay, when Haman comes to ask Achashverosh about annihilating the Jews, so he says three things.
And where are you?
He said, hold on. In Gimel Chet 3:8. Vayomer Haman lemelech Achashverosh. He's making his claim now. He's trying to convince Achashverosh to give him the green light to annihilate all the Jews on the day that he picked with the lottery. Okay? Which is also interesting that he pushes it off. He doesn't do it right away. He has patience. Okay? So it says, Vayomer Haman lemelech Achashverosh, Yeshno am echad mifuzar umifurad ben ha'amim. There is this nation which doesn't have its own geographic location. It is mifuzar, it's spread out, umifurad, and separated amongst the nations. B'chol midinot malchutecha. I think so. I forgot my glasses. Okay. That's it. It's okay. We'll do. Worst comes to worst, I'll pronounce the words wrong. Someone will correct me because the dots just all look the same. Okay, vidas. So one thing, geographic, they're all spread out. Number two, vidatehem shonot mikol am, and they have a different religion than all other nations, which is interesting because at that time almost every nation had a different religion, at least different idols and different ideas. And they don't keep the law of the king. It's not worth it for you to leave them alone, to leave them around. So three things, right? Geographically, they're spread out. Two, they have a different religion. And three, they don't keep the laws of the king. Now, if you are Haman, what is the relevance of 1 and 2, right? The king is the king. You don't keep the Haman. Is limited in how much time the king is going to give him, especially since we said he seems to be an impulsive individual, possibly with ADHD. So why is he saying these number 1 and 2? What significance do 1 and 2 have that Achashverosh should say, oh yeah, because they're geographically spread out, I should kill them? Because they have a different religion, I should kill them? No, why should you kill them? Because they don't listen. They don't listen to the laws of the king. That's a reason to kill people. So what is Haman really saying here? What is Haman's position here? Why does he say these things? So based on what we just said from Achashverosh, we can understand Haman's plea. Because Achashverosh wants to unite people. right? He wants everyone to be under his jurisdiction. And these are people who Haman is saying they will never be under your jurisdiction. Because they're geographically spread out, their poison is all over, right? It's not just limited to a certain area. Because they have a different religion, they will never intermarry and intermingle and become part of real Persians. And number three is they will never listen. And how will they never listen? They will never listen as a group who's geographically spread out, who is dangerous to you. Okay? But perhaps there's another meaning here. And the meaning here is, and this is going to bring us into Esther and the main idea of this year. And that is and you're learning Sefer Shoftim now, right? So if Sefer Shoftim, as we said, we mentioned it last week, really it ends with a horrible, horrible civil war, okay? Which was only the first of other civil wars that continued, okay? So there's the civil war between all of the tribes against Binyamin. And this is after, right, years later, after Shlomo HaMelech dies, leaves his son Rechavam in charge, Yeravam from the north, again, there's another civil war, okay? And again, the leaders from the north, the northern kingdom, are descendants of Rachel Imenu, okay? And from Shevet or Menashe or Ephraim, usually Menashe. And then you have the leaders in the southern kingdom from Yehuda, Leah's child, who was designated to be the king. So, and we have continuous battles between them, friction between them. Things do not go well between them until the 10 northern tribes of the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom are sent into exile. And who's left? Yehuda and Binyamin, a little bit of Shevet Shimon, and Leviim and Kohan. Okay, and what happens to those people? Where are they taken? After the temple falls, the first destruction of the first temple, they are taken to Persia. Okay, and so what's going to happen now? Okay, because we spoke about what's going to happen in this family. What's going to happen between these two shvatim? Now we need each other more than ever. So are we going to be able to come together as one, or are we going to stay mifuzar or mifurad? Mifurad, in the technical sense, in the pshat sense, is talking about geographically. But perhaps Haman was saying they are not united. They're not united. They're separate. Everyone's living their own life. Everyone is kind of doing what they want to do, like it always says in Sefer Shoftim. So they don't listen to their own religion. They're not being kind or connected to their own brothers. Why should we keep them around? They're never going to connect, be kind, or be one or subordinate to us. They can't even be subordinate to their own leaders, which is what was happening at the time. Who's supposed to be the leader now? Mordechai, which is also problematic, which we'll discuss when we talk about Esther in a minute. Because where does Mordechai come from? Binyamin, not from Yehuda. So where's Yehuda? Where are the kings? Where are the descendants of the kings? Where's Tzidkiyahu, all of his children were killed, but he had grandchildren already. So where were they? What were they up to? Why weren't they part of the picture? So Haman is coming to Achashverosh and say, this nation is insignificant because no good will ever come of a nation who can't get their internal garbage together, let alone subjugate themselves to us. They can't even subjugate themselves to their own king, who's supposed to be their king. So they're never going to subjugate themselves to you. Get rid of them.
So why did Haman do this? Is this before Mordechai put it out to him?
After.
Oh, it's after.
Yeah.
Right. That was good.
Right. Okay.
They had a long history.
Yeah.
They didn't like each other for a while.
They had multiple clashes before. Mordechai actually saved Haman's life. And Haman had promised him, he was a barber. Haman had promised him that he owes him a certain amount I can't remember the amount of money, but he redeemed him and saved his life. That's called repaying a kindness with evil. Okay, and then we have Esther. Okay, so let's look in Dalid. And we looked at these words again, but we looked at these before, but we'll look at them again. And we'll start. Okay. So in Daled Yud Bet, in chapter 4, pasuk 12, Ve'agidu leMordechai as divrei Esther, and they told Mordechai what Esther said. And Esther said, "What? I can't go to the king. Everybody knows that anyone who goes to the king without being invited is risking his life. Not a good idea." Vayoma Mordechai la'ashiv el Esther, al tidami benafshech limaleit beit hamelech mikol haYehudim. What does Mordechai say? Let's pay careful attention to what he says. Do not be silent within your soul to escape to the house of the king. Mikol haYehudim. What is he calling the Jews here? Yehudim. Okay. What was he called before when we first met him? Mordechai Yehudi. One second. Back. In Bet Hay, in chapter 2, pasuk 5, it says Ish Yehudi. What does it call him? A Yehudi from Shevet Yehuda. Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan Habira u'shmo Mordechai. And his name was Mordechai. Ben Yair, Ben Shimi, Ben Kish. Stops there. It doesn't just say his father's name, grandfather's name, great-grandfather's name. Stop. Ish Yemini. So first it starts off by telling us he's the Ish Yehudi. Then it tells us he's an Ish Yemini. He's from Binyamin. So which one is he? Is he a Yehudi or is he a Yemani? Well, so the I think Rashi brings down here that it's both, right? Because his mother was from Yehuda and his father was from Binyamin, which already tells us what? He comes from a unified family, right? Meaning his family, even though it officially was rescinded, the Cherem on marrying into Shevet Binyamin at the time of the civil war by Pilegish Begiva, there were still many, many people who would not, who would make a shidduch with someone from Shevet Binyamin, right? Okay, so he's identified as both, but here he's not calling them Binyaminim or even Yisraelim. He's calling them Yehudim. Because if you choose, as we spoke about in length at the first year that we had, if you choose to remain silent and make yourself out to be deaf, so that you didn't hear, you don't know, then salvation will come to the Jews from another place. Ve'at uveis avich tovedu, but you and your father's house will be lost. Isn't that interesting what he says here? You and your father's house. Wouldn't it be enough just to say you? Why does he specifically say your father's house? Her father's house was her father. Shaul. Who else is her father? Would be Rachel. Her father would be all the way back to Binyamin as well. You and your father's house will be lost. In other words, the whole Shevet Binyamin will be lost. And Yehudim, Shevet Yehuda will continue? Is that what he's saying here? Umi Odea, and who knows? Im la'et hazot higat lemalchut. Maybe this is why you're here as the queen. Now, interestingly enough, Shevet, the children of Rachel, have this very interesting pattern of constantly being the second to the king, right? Yosef is the second to the king. He brings wealth, he brings prosperity, he brings good advice. He is very valuable. He's second to the king. The queen is also in a certain sense second to the king, okay? And here she is, a descendant of Rachel, second to the king. And we see at the end, Mordechai becomes Mishneh Lemelech. So in the story of Yosef, he's the second to the king. He brings tremendous prosperity to Mitzrayim. At the end of the story of the Megillah, Mordechai, from the other son of Rachel, from Binyamin, right? He's the second to the king. And it says, how does the Megillah end? Let's go. We'll read the end of the book before we're finished. The last pasuk says, let's do the last three psukim from Perek Yud, chapter 10. Vayasem HaMelech Achashverosh mas al haaretz v'yeh hayam. And he put a tax on the land and of all of the islands. In other words, prosperity, income, filling the royal treasure houses, just like Yosef had did for Paro. V'chol ma'aseh takfo ugvurato uparshat gedulato Mordechai shegidu hamelech halohim ktuvim al sefer divrei yom l'malchei madei uparas. And all of the great things that Mordechai did, all of the instrumental and all of the great wealth which was attained from Mordechai and his advice to Achashverosh, it's all written in the archives. Ki Mordechai HaYehudi, again, what is he called here? Yehudi, not the Yemini. Mishneh LaMelech, he's the second to the king Achashverosh. The Gadol HaYehudim, and he is great to the Jews. He has been promoted amongst the Jews. V'ratzui l'rov echav, and he is liked. His rating is 51%. Rov, the majority like him. Okay. Udoresh toiv la'amo, he seeks out good for his nation. V'dover shalom l'chol zaro, and he speaks of peace to all of his descendants, which is all Jewish people. Okay, so that's how it ends, which is exactly kind of the end of the story of Yosef, right? What does Yosef do for all his brothers? He brings them to Goshen. He sets them up. He makes sure they're in a peaceful place. He ensures that everything is good for them. Okay, so the children of Rachel have this tendency, right? Pattern to end up becoming second to the king, right? In foreign lands, and bringing great prosperity to those foreign lands, and at the same time taking care and healing their brothers. Unifying, absolutely unifying. That's probably the most important. So what is Mordechai saying? Va'at ubeit avich toveit. So Yehuda and Binyamin's relationship has been, as we said, quite complicated, right? Since the beginning. Since the let's go back to the brothers in Bereshis, right? So we all know Yosef is born. He's the first child of Rachel Imenu. Now, interestingly enough, if we look at almost all of the names of the Shvatim from Rachel and from Leah, they are all, with the exception of Yehuda, in reference to their relationship with Yaakov, right? Reuven, Ki ra'ah Hashem es ani. Hashem has seen my suffering. What suffering was Leah talking about? That she feels like she's fifth wheel in this, or the third wheel, in this marriage. Okay, Ki Shimon, Ki shama Hashem, because Hashem has heard. Levi, hapam yilaveh Hashem, hapam yilaveh ishi elai. This time my husband will come to me, right? Yosef, Ki Yosef Hashem. She's asking for more, right? More. Binyamin ben Oni, the son of my suffering, and that's Rachel's name for him. Binyamin ben Yemini, my right hand man. That's Yaakov's name. Okay, who is an exception of this? Who is not in this tug of war relationship? Yehuda. Yehuda is named Hapam Odeh es Hashem. This time I will praise Hashem. That's phenomenal, because that's different, right? And that's also the foundation of being a king, okay? Now, of course, we all know that, and I have to say, I heard this amazing shir last week. I listened to it Erev Shabbos. It was broadcasted on Thursday. Do you know about the Nishmas group? Women who say, from all over the world, who say Nishmat Kol Chai every day together. It's phenomenal.
Yes, a group, yes.
It's amazing group. I try to join, it's just, they do it, it's like 3:00 in the afternoon. And it's like, I have to remember, even though she sends out a reminder, it doesn't help. You have to remember to like join and or whatever. I would love to, when I can, I go on it. And 3 days a week, sometimes 4 days a week, sometimes more. Naomi Greenberg is her name. She brings them speakers who talk about all different topics. She has a real variety of speakers. Like a very, very vast, from very intellectual things to, very energy, holistic healing and things like that. She has a lot of variety of speakers. Very, very interesting. It's always great. And it's amazing because they get almost every day over 100 women who say Nishmas and Tehillim and daven for the soldiers and say the tefillah for the Shvuim. It's beautiful. And
Is it Israel? I mean, I'm sure it's.
she lives in Israel, but most of the time.
On a regular phone?
Yes, yeah, a lot of people do as well. And it's also broadcasted on YouTube too. And it's all recorded. It's called in YouTube, you find it by the Nishmat Women's Circle. That's what it's called. Anyways, it's amazing. So last week she had Miriam Adahan spoke, and she said something so incredible. I mean, she said this before, but it was really, I was very touched by what she said. And she said a lot of things. I really recommend listening to the show. It's really good. She said, the only way to heal from trauma and pain is through gratitude. Gratitude. So if we think of Yehuda as the only son who's not named for a lack of relationship with Yaakov, but he's named out of gratitude, satisfaction, right? Recognition of giving. Gratitude. That's his name, Yehuda. Gratitude. Odes Apam, Odes Hashem. He's definitely the one who can heal this family from the schism and the pirud and the non-achdut that happens to them, even though he's one of the instigators, right? He's definitely one of the instigators. He is maybe the instigator, okay? And the brothers blame him, but the difference is that Yehuda takes responsibility. So if you remember, they go down to Mitzrayim. Yosef gives them the food that they need, the whole thing with returns their money, and it's all very suspicious. And he takes out the Git Hanesha in front of them. All these strange things. But what does he say to them? Do not come back here unless you bring your little brother Binyamin. And so they go back, and of course Yaakov does not want them to bring back Binyamin under no circumstances. He already lost Yosef. He should risk losing Binyamin. And by the way, we're not talking about babies here, okay? We're not talking about little children. We're talking about grown adults, right? Binyamin at this point had over 10 children, if I remember correctly, okay? He had many, many children. So he wasn't a little kid. So in this conversation, Yehuda takes responsibility for Binyamin. And it says, I'm reading from Bereshis Mem Daled 44. I'll back up. The pasuk that I really want to get to is the 14th pasuk, but we'll go back to. So they bring back Binyamin. Which pasuk? I'm going to go to Yud Daled. This is when they find the gavia, the cup of Yosef in Binyamin's sack. And now, well, you promised that I'm going to, if anything happened, I'm going to take him as a slave. And Yehuda promised his father that he'll going to bring him back whole. Now, if you're Yehuda and you're Yehuda who's thinking, I want control, right? And this will actually end all the period in the family because, one less person in the competition makes things a little bit easier. That would be the best thing. But if you're Yehuda, who's really a leader, who really has watching out for their brother's back, then this is where he shines. And he says to him, No, Vayomer Yehuda, Mano Marla Adoni, Manitaber, Manitstadek. How will we possibly explain this to our father? So here, as opposed to when they got rid of Yosef, right, where it was very easy, what were they going to tell him? They were going to make up some blood libel, literally, right? Some animal must have come and done this to him. What could we possibly say? Elokim matzah es avon avadecha. Hashem has found my sin, meaning I've been exposed now. This is just enforcing to me how wrong I was with everything that I did to Yosef. Hineni avadim la'adoni, I'll be your slave. We'll all be your slaves. Gam anachnu v'gam asher nimtza hagavia biado. Vayomer chalila li me'aso zos, ha'ish asher nimtza hagavia biado hu yeh li. Okay? 1 second, that's not, I was looking for a different pasuk. Where Yehuda says, kasher avadati avadati. Just like chapter 4, when Esther says, I'll go to Achashverosh kasher avadati avadati. So what's happening here? Where's that pasuk in Bereshis though? I cannot find it. What is it? Oh, 43:14. Sorry. 43:14. In 43:14, Yehuda says, "V'kel Shaddai yitin lachem rachamim lifnei ha'ish." And this is actually Yaakov talking. Hashem should give you mercy before the man. V'shilach lachem es achichem achar v'es Binyamin. V'ani kasher shacholti shachalti. And Yosef, this is Yehuda, not Yosef, not Yehuda, Yaakov, who's saying, I am bereaved, I will be bereaved. Okay? Which is a very similar lashon to what Esther says, kasher avadati, avadati. Okay, it's this double lashon of complete loss. Okay, I will be lost. So what I'd like to suggest is happening here is that the same thing that Yehuda could have watched out for himself only, but he extended this to watch over his brother, Binyamin, his quote unquote competition now that Yosef is out of the picture. He watches over his back. And when does Binyamin pay back Yehuda? Here. Because Esther could have gone in and said, okay, I'll save my tribe. I'll save my family. And Mordechai says, no, that's not enough. Because if you do that, your family is the one, Beis Avicha, the house of your father is the one who's going to be lost. This is the time now to not be a Yemini, to not be a Binyamin, a Benjaminite, but this is the time now to be a Jew, to be a Yehuda, the lion who in Parshas Vayigash roars, right? And he says, no way, you are not taking Binyamin. That's just not going to happen. You'll take me as a slave, it's not going to happen. So Esther, right, we could ask, when Esther first comes to Achashverosh, when she works up the courage and she comes to Achashverosh, why doesn't she ask right away? Say, what is this whole thing about? Inviting to the party, and because she wanted to buy time. She wanted to buy these 3 days of everybody fasting, of everybody, Yehuda, Binyamin, everybody getting together and not being mifuzar or mifurad ben ha'amim, but coming together and realizing, whoa, we're in trouble. We've strayed, right? We've strayed from the path. So the family here is reunited. The division between Malchus Beis David and Binyamin, who always stuck it through, and Binyamin, who is ostracized, right? After the Pilegei Shagiva in the Civil War, and Binyamin, who always was quiet, right? Binyamin knew the secret. His stone of the Kohen Gadol's breastplate was Yoshpeh, Yesh Peh. He has a mouth, but he keeps silence, right? The Midah of Rachel Imenu. And it says that 4 people took this up. Rachel, and she passed it on to Shaul, Rachel, who passed it on to Binyamin, who passed it on to Shaul, who passed it on to Rachel, of knowing when to keep quiet and right. Esther keeps the secret. She keeps the secret for a long time that she's Jewish. She keeps the secret.
With Rachel. You mean to say
Rachel passed 4 people.
Yeah, what's the
Arba
you meant to say
Esther.
Esther.
Yes, thank you. I said Rachel. Okay, I meant Esther. Shaul was silent. I'm going to remind myself again. He didn't tell him. There was another place that Nachon. He didn't tell anyone that he was anointed king. There was another place that he was silent as well. He was always very humble. There was another place, and I can't remember where. So this is the achdut, and this is reflected in the mitzvahs of Purim, right? The mitzvahs of Purim are mitzvahs that we do together, right? Mishlochei manot, mishteh, matanot levyonim, giving charity. These are all mitzvahs which breed achdut, which breed brotherly love, right? They say that you're not supposed to give mishlochei manot to the people who, it's easy to give to, that they're people that you, of course, I mean, maybe you should give them also. But we should try to give mishlochei manot to people that we're not on the best terms with, or we want to improve achdut with, to someone who wouldn't expect to get it from us. That would be a nice surprise, right? Everyone likes to bring to the rabbanim and to the, and things, like that. But what about the people who maybe nobody brings them mishlochei manot, right? That's a big Indian to bring to those people mishlochei manot and matanot levunim as well. I'm sure everyone, there's gonna be a big push. I've seen it already a few times to collect mishlochei manot for the chayalim, for soldiers, and I'm sure they very much appreciate it. I know they appreciate it. They're very, very well taken care of by Am Yisrael, Baruch Hashem. When one of my sons first went into the army, I said, okay, let's go shopping. Let's get you now. When he was called up from Miluim, I said, let's go shopping. Let's get you everything you need. He's like, I don't need anything. And I'm like, are you serious? He's like, I don't need anything. I'll get everything there. I'm like, socks, underwear, deodorant, shampoo. He's like, no. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. You're not going to take anything. He goes, nothing. And I'm like, you're making a mistake. He calls me. He's like, look what I got when I came. He got all this, everything he needed plus, right? Plus. Said, what do you think? You think these Jewish mothers are going to let a chayal go without socks, without shoes, without candy, without cigarettes, everything? Coca-Cola, XL, whatever you want. Of course, we have everything we need here. It's like, okay, I was wrong.
Yeah, it's true, but in the classroom, I think it was 67 more. We had a package for each family, for each child, give to the soldiers plus the letter. And some people come back letters, thank them, and they receive. So yeah, it's in a way it's a well known. Unfortunately, in time it's Sarah, but it's well known that the kids familiar.
It's very healing for the children also.
Of course, yeah,
it's very
something that
yeah. Again, it's the giving, it's the gratitude. Those are the things that heal. So here, Binyamin, Mordechai, and Esther repay Yehuda for watching their back. They mend the bridge, they mend the rift between Klal Yisrael. There's no longer Binyamin and Yehudim. Everybody is Yehudim. Everybody is, so to speak, even though he's not from the house of David, right? But that's who the real king is, comes from the house of David. It's a recognition of that. Just the Yehudim, right, from Yehuda, from the house of David. A recognition, which was also, it's interesting that Shaul from Binyamin was the first king, right? Why didn't Klal Yisrael start off right away with a king from Yehuda? Why did we first have to have a king from Shaul? From Binyamin. So I'm not sure if this is the answer exactly, but I think it makes sense. Just like here, Mordechai is going to be like the precursor, right? It's like the prequel. Here, going to get everybody into shape. We're going to show that we are, and then we're going to pass it on to Beis David. We're going to show that we're subordinate to Beis David, who's the real king. The same pattern, Nachon. Except that's Yosef and Binyamin, but it's the children of Rachel, the same pattern. This is absolutely the same pattern. So we're just hoping that pattern will be revealed right now.
In a way, things happen right now, like Megillat Esther.
We're in very...
Not the Mishteh, but it's very similar to what's going on now.
It's not history.
No.
It's our story. Because the idea, that's a very good question. I think the question was, why was it so important that Esther be anonymous, right? That Achashverosh shouldn't know where she comes from, right? Would it made a difference to him, right? If it made such a difference to him, if he didn't want to have a Jewish queen, he would have made sure that he didn't have a Jewish queen. And I'm sure that he had many methods to find out, okay? But the idea was one, it suited him well that she wasn't labeled, because then she appealed to all 127. And they all could claim that she was, one of them. And that's actually the Medrash reports that's what happened. I think another idea, though, from the other side of why Esther didn't want to tell is because she didn't want to identify herself as being a Yemeni or a Yehudi. I'm for everybody. Just like we said that Adar Aleph is the month of all the Shvatim, right? It's not for one Shevet. It's for all the Shvatim. And it's the Achdut, what got rescinded, how it got rescinded, how the decree was rescinded, was through the reunification, through the fact that everybody came together for those 3 days and said, we're together. We're all Yehudim. We don't know Yemini. Beis Avicha doesn't matter. Where you're from doesn't matter. We're all here together. We're all in this together. Yeah. We have to just have to remember it. We have to keep reminding ourselves because we forget. It's very easy. It's easy to forget. One of the reasons I heard this, I don't know how true it is, but it's an interesting thought that one of the reasons why many of the Chayalim are so eager to go back to Gaza is because there it's so. I heard this from a secular newscaster this morning that they feel the Shechina in Gaza because of the Achidut.
Wow.
Whoa. And they want to be there. When they come home, when they come back into society, yeah, exactly. They feel that, separation, and they can't stand it, and they feel the lack of the Shechina. That's the word the secular news reporter used this morning.
Wow.
Among the soldiers.
Among the soldiers. The achdus among the soldiers is so great. There it doesn't matter where you're from or who you are.
Political stances. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
And as soon as they leave, they feel a difference. But he used the word Shechina. Shemagishim et hashchina ba'aza. Okay, he lived here. He lived in Tzfat also, and then he moved and he took over. And he's buried there, but his caver was destroyed. There was. Shabtai Tzvi also lived there.
No way.
I told my sons when they were in Gaza on Shabbos, I said, make sure you sing Kari Bon Olam, and I lit candles Erev Shabbos for Yisrael ben Moshe Najara, that you should watch over all the Rabbi Yisrael. But he wrote it in Tzfat. He moved later. He was one of the Gurei Ha'ari. He was one of the Talmidim of that special, the Chevra Kadisha, the holy friendship over there.
I never knew like historically there was a population.
Yeah, sure.
Really?
Not a huge one, but there was.
And that's why they wanted to
Sure, but I mean,
Ancient, yeah. I mean, like I said, Shabtai Tzvi also went there at a certain point.
In Sefer Yeshua, that was a place that they couldn't get.
The Plishtim and in Shoftim, the Plishtim, the Chameshet Sarnei Plishtim, they were always bothering Klal Yisrael. Always. It was, always bothering them. Bothering us, I should say. That's where they took the Aron Bris Hashem. They took it back to Gaza. And then they, passed it on because of the punishment they got. But
someone I know that grew up in Israel many years ago, like during the 60s, she said that people would say this expression, I'm not going to say it, go to H-E. Instead of saying, but in Hebrew would say Lech LaZazel, they used to say Lech LaAz. It's the phrase. They used to say Lech LaAz, meaning go to, like that's how it was like always this thing of Gaza being like the pit of the world.
think of the names of the Gaza. What does Gaza mean? Azut.
But they just tell things like
Always suffered from the Plishtim. Well, it's interesting that they use that name because the word Plishtim comes from Polish. They're squatters. That's what it means, right? It literally the world needs to know that the word Palestinian means squatters because they squatted on the land. Polshim. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Which is like,
Not permanent residents.
no, invaders,
Yeah.
squatters. It's not even invaders. Invaders conquer, right? They didn't even conquer. They just squatted. Polshim, yeah. Okay, Shenishma B'surot Tovot.
Thank you.
Nachon, Elimelech Gerar, and Avram.
Yeah, you said Azuk. What is Azuk?
Chutzpah.